Hurricane Sandy and its economic fallout so far. Let's talk to Dan Burns. He is U.S. General News Editor here at Reuters. All right, Dan, first let's talk about the sectors most heavily affected by this storm. An obvious two, utilities and insurance.
Well, yeah, I mean, utilities, because there's going to be a lot of power outages.
Right.
You know, they've brought in crews from around the country. I was coming back from Pennsylvania yesterday, and I was passing convoy after convoy from places like Missouri, Tennessee, elsewhere.
Right.
This is an enormous and costly undertaking for utilities. On insurance, it's a bit of a crapshoot right now. People are modeling a loss right now based on the storm track that is a little bit north of Irene, so that puts it into the mid-single-digit billions, 5, 6, maybe a little bit north. But if this is catastrophic, it gets much larger. Now, the hitch for insurers is that, yes, they incur this initial cost, but then they get to jack up rates, and that's typically good for the stocks afterward. If it's a really big storm, it could change modeling, though.
Right, interesting. Okay, moving on to retail. Obviously, nobody's going shopping. The stores aren't even closed, and if you don't have power, you're not even buying online.
Right, and you're certainly not expecting an Amazon delivery anytime in the Northeast in the next several days.
Right.
So, not a really good time for as we begin. We're only 2 months now from Christmas, right? So this is the shopping season has really begun by now. This is not a welcome sign for retailers.
All right, transportation stocks going forward.
Airlines are the big watch here. Thousands of flight. I don't know.
Right,
I think
7,000. I think
right?
flight delays. Right.
Okay, and that's a big cost to restart the whole route system after you've got a major delay like this. So, and airlines are, not always in the best shape. You got at least one major one in bankruptcy, right?
Absolutely. Construction, though.
Okay.
I mean,
if there's a rebuild,
if there's a rebuild, and we've got a lot of unemployment in terms of getting folks working.
And if there's major infrastructure damage, like bridges and roads and stuff like that, big engineering companies like Shaw Group, they're a natural beneficiary possibly. They've benefited after some other disasters. But and you'd also look for the home improvement retails. Home Depot, Lowe's. They're going to sell lots of generators. They're going to sell lots of plywood. All that kind of stuff.
Already sold out, I'm sure. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about what was the markets today and what was trading. Very
little. We had a very brief period of U.S. equity index futures trading. S&P index dropped about a little less than 1%.
Yeah.
Bonds, we traded about half the morning.
Right.
The 10-year note traded up a little bit. Yield dropped about 2 basis points to about 1.72%.
Yeah.
You can see that's the lowest in about a week.
Right.
A lot of concern there about the potential economic effect here, but also Europe again. You got a bit of a standoff politically in Italy, and that's caused a bit of concern about the outlook for Europe to get its act together.
Moving on to oil, because we know that a lot of refineries are shut and a lot of ports and
Big,
harbors in terms of
one
transportation.
of the biggest on the East Coast, and Philly is completely shut. Now typically that would represent a supply constraint that might be a buoy for oil, but there's also the demand element here when you have this city is a complete stop. So is that's the condition from Washington almost all the way to Boston. I drove today, there was nobody on the road with me on the way in here.
Absolutely. All right, so what do we think we're looking at in terms of total economic loss at this point? Any estimates? We know that Irene was about 15 to 20 billion. We've got probably 2 days of no commercial activities. What do you think?
Well, I mean, the difference here with Irene is that was contemporary with the storm coming up the Delaware Valley.
Yeah.
Here, we've got the city completely stopped, and the storm hasn't even hit here yet. We could be looking at 3 or 4 days of no activity in the most densely populated part of the country.
Okay. We've got an Equicat actually estimating 10 to 20 billion so far at this point.
Okay. Well, it could go higher, though.
It could go higher, yeah. All right. In terms of the exchange closures coming up, Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, what are you hearing?
Well, our sources are telling our market team that there's a big push to make sure the market is closed tomorrow. Remember yesterday when the NYSE finally got around to announcing that it wasn't going to clear today? They left Tuesday an open question. It's not definitive yet. We expect to have word on that later this afternoon, but it's clear that they're leaning toward it. Subways aren't open.
No.
MTA's not running anywhere. Even though the trading floor, nobody works down there anymore. Traders still have to get to the banks where they trade, and they can't get into the city.
But important if they can open Wednesday for just a couple of hours at least.
Yeah, pretty key. End of the month. We've got the S&P up about 11% so far this year.
Okay.
For benchmarking purposes, for portfolio managers, it's really vital you get that last day of the month bogey in against your benchmark.
Friday, jobs report. Delayed at this point?
We don't know.
Yeah.
There's a Wall Street Journal blog that we're chasing to confirm that says the Department of Labor is considering delaying the jobs report from this Friday.
Right.
Of course, that has huge implications, not just for the market, but it is supposed to be the last one before the election.
For that little election that's
Just
coming
that little
up.
one.
That little one coming up. All right, delayed earnings across the board with a lot of companies here. We're going to show you a chart and get that up there. Martha Stewart Living was supposed to be tomorrow to November 1st. You can see up there Sirius XM. Tomorrow
Hey,
delayed to
Thomson
November.
Reuters.
There you go. Pfizer, McGraw-Hill, November 2nd. Yours truly, Thomson Reuters, put off until November. Was supposed to be tomorrow, November 2nd now. And Office Depot was also supposed to be tomorrow, now November 6th. We are going to look at some pictures of the storm and see the devastation that it's doing. We'll get there up there as well. Play amateur. You can see the difference yet, amateur meteorologist here. But there's Irene and there's Sandy on the right as it comes in.
It is just so massive. This
It's
storm
massive.
is 1,000
It's
miles
massive.
in breadth.
You don't even have to be a meteorologist to
and-
see the
right.
difference there on those images.
And while it's going to be a big wind and rain event here, just a few hundred miles inland, we're expecting maybe 2 feet of snow and blizzard conditions in West Virginia and Western Maryland.
It's like last year's Snowmageddon and Irene times 10 all combined. Okay, we've also got Google just put out this Google crisis map, and we can show you there. If you look down here, there's where the storm is and where it's tracking in, and there's the storm surge actually in the yellow and the orange areas there, and you can see as it moves in, kind of New Jersey getting slammed underneath the green there as it made landfall, or is about to make landfall, and then coming up through New York State there.
Yeah.
That,
and then takes another right hook, and you can see where it makes that hard right turn there, right over, just right about over Gettysburg, Pennsylvania.
This is
where
3
my
days.
daughter happens to be in college.
Oh, wow. This is the 3-day tracker. I hope she's safe.
Yes, she is.
She's batten down the hatches there. Yeah, so this is the path of the storm over 3 days. And, of course, it takes a very dangerous left turn that everybody talked about coming in to hit us and then heading north. All right, Dan Burns, thank you so much for your
Thanks, Lisa.
expertise. And everybody should check out our Twitter feed for more headlines of the day. That's at Reuters Insider. And our YouTube channel is Reuters.com/Reuters TV. Stay safe, everybody, please. I'm Lisa Bernhard, and this is Reuters.